Hey everyone, I'm Bradley. Welcome back to my channel. Portland gentlemen, it is great to have you here today. Today's video is all about unitank heating. This is a subject that honestly in the last about 4 to 5 years has really been taken storm by, if you know, by these massive 2-inch heating elements with lots of power, ultra low watt density, meaning you're not gonna have any sort of burning or cooking inside of your tank, but they allow you to get that heat right there into the fermenter where you want it and not around the outside, a more even heating, if you will, in all of my testing. So today we are going to look at the BrewTools heaters and see how they work. I'll talk to you about how to install them, what fermenters they can go in, what ones they can't, in my experience, which is limited to the major brands, if you will. So I pretty much cover most all of them, which is pretty cool. Before we get started real quick, all of these heating elements were sent to me for review by BrewTools and for testing purposes. Some I've had for a long time. Like, for instance, this one, which is near and dear to my heart, and this is a bit of a flex, everybody, but this is the original prototype. It still works just fine. Obviously, the new ones you don't, have this base on it. They're much lighter, but this is the OG prototype back when this was just kind of an idea, a really good idea. Research it, mash it, boil it, ferment it, drink it, analyze, share it. Home brewing is good. All right, so as far as heating a vessel, a lot of us have been using heat belts for years, and these do work. They are limited on power, rightfully so. There are also heating devices that will go around the cone of a fermenter, and those are also somewhat limited, but they make them pretty high wattages, and those will work. I happen to think this style of element is just a much better way to go. Like I mentioned, the heat is all inside of the vessel, submerged in that column of wort. I think that is critical for an even kind of let that convection happen inside. You're gonna get a much more rapid response that way. All right, so if you enjoy my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. We're all familiar with the 2-inch elements that go in the F100. I have just off camera, you can't see. They also fit the other kind of modern unitank fermenters on the market, being the BrewBuilt X3. Those have a dedicated 2-inch port, as well as the BrewTools F40 and the F80, and so on up the line. They all fit the 2-inch design. Now, what's new, the 1.5-inch design, as well as the 34mm design. The 34mm and the 1.5-inch all have the same size element. It's designed to fit in that narrower aperture that you might find on one of the kind of more old school unitanks like the SS BrewTec over my shoulder here. This guy, its side ports there, except for the two main valved dump ports, are all have that smaller aperture. So that will allow it to fit inside of all of those just fine without an adapter. It goes in there, plenty of clearance inside of the column. Again, you wouldn't want to put one of these directly up the main bottom port. You wouldn't want that heat down there in the yeast cake. That might be bad. But up there inside the column of wort or beer, if you will, is a really great place to put these. And it fits in the SS BrewTec line just fine. Now, having said that, I do not have a 7-gallon BrewTec fermenter yet. I'm working on getting my hands on one, so I can't tell you for sure if it fits in the 7-gallon or not. So this is what's commonly out there. This is a 100 and 20 volt model, 200 watts, plenty of power. The actual length from the base of the flange here all the way to the end is about 9.5 inches right there. So that's a decent size. Some might say the overall width of this guy, it's about all the way across 5/8 of an inch. It's it's relatively slender, but this guy, in my testing, I haven't had any issue with any sort of caramelizing or burning or anything caking on to this. So with those measurements, if you have a 7-gallon BrewTec or a 7-gallon spike, maybe that one you're going to need to check. But we'll get into the spike and kind of the nuances. Again, the spikes are all a really old and derelict design, if I dare to say. Not to mention, they're just, you know, the 8-inch opening on the modern stuff is just the way to go. If you want to use one of these on a spike unitank with the cooling coil, it's going to be a little bit too long, at least in the 14-gallon I have over here. So what you need to do is, I actually switched to the 34mm just because I have one and I have spacers on hand. But with the 34mm and a 1.5-inch to 34mm spacer, it pushes it out just a little bit further, and it actually does fit with the cooling coil. I'm sure you could do something similar with a inch and a half extension or a spacer piece. I just used what I had. So if you're going to use spike, keep that in mind. It'll absolutely work. You're going to have unrivaled heating performance if you're trying to ferment something warm. If you're even bigger tank, one of their 1 barrel tanks, this would be the way to go. Obviously, it fits in the mini uni. Plus, I have the 30 liter that I've been testing and playing a lot with the inch and a half flange. Put this on the lowest port, slide it in, and you are good to go. You are set up for heat. And if you've been watching my recent videos, guys, you can tell I use one of these exclusively in the BrewBuilt X3. They do the job and allow me to ferment stuff, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, no problem. Like I said, without any sort of caramelization or cooking. The other thing you'll have to get with this is this is an LP20 connector, 3-pin variety. BrewTools does sell these guys directly, and they're somewhat waterproof, really robust connection. They're a 3-wire connection, and you can just put on a plug of your choosing, whether that's a straight plug or a right angle plug or whatever. These are going to work pretty much in any market, but you will have to get these. These are super robust, relatively affordable, and this is what gets the job done. The bottom of it has this little handy cover just to keep water and dust and liquid out of there. These aren't fully waterproof. They're IP44, so you don't want to submerge this back part, but definitely cleaning this is no problem. Never had anything stick to any of mine, and I have literally tried them all, as well as the original prototype, and that one had 0 issues. So these just work, and they work really, really well. Super effective, and a really, really good way to go, in my opinion. Now, as far as a temp controller, man, you are really, really open on temp controllers, what you can use. Obviously, if you're using BrewTools, their new control system is on the horizon. And from what I've had a chance to play with it hands-on, it's really, really cool. So obviously, that's going to be supported. You've seen me use it with other company stuff here over my shoulder. You can also just use this with an Inkbird. A regular Inkbird controller will run one of these elements just fine without fail. It's gonna work really well. Just literally adapt that jumper plug, that power cable, and plug it in. It's gonna work just fine. If you want to use it with the SS solution, the FTSS, you will have to wire up a relay. It's not too complex. There's some tutorials out there, but you could very easily trigger one with that. Their system just it can't handle the oomph that this guy requires because it's 200 watts. It's a lot more than what they're using. With that, I've tested that on, like, literally, we have one of all the major manufacturers' tanks. Obviously, I have the Brewers Hardware insulated jacketed unitank. That guy is off camera right now because I'm just testing out the stuff, and it's heavy, and I don't want to. There's only so much room in here, and I take up a lot of it. These will work in that with that inch and a half flange, no problem. And that is by far the best way. Just make sure you have it on one of the lowest ports possible, fully submerged, not on the bottom ports. You definitely want to keep it out of that yeast, out of the main part of the cone if you can. That's highly advisable. But these are going to work a treat and allow you to really get the heating dialed in, and you will want not for heating performance. All right, everybody, so there are links for everything below that we've talked about. Check them out at morebeer.com. Also check them out at BrewTools. They'll be able to link you through to their vendors that are all around the world. That is the best way to kind of do it that way. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember, I've been Bradley. Home brewing is good, and I'll see you real, real soon. Yes. Yes. I mean, this whole video is kind of a flex. Having the prototype here, it's cool if you're me. Remember when this came out, it was awesome. Nothing like it. Really revolutionary. And yeah, let's hope there's more of that on the way. Everything else, guys, I've experienced all these unit tanks. I have opinions and thoughts. I will hopefully get a video out this year before the holidays, before December. If you're in the market and you want to know what I really think about where to put your money, I'll be honest, which I'm known for being honest, critical of even my favorite brands at times, because that's the only way to be. No bloopers, just serious shit.